going on, Jerome? Happy Tuesday. Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another Vikings news dump. So I've tried to avoid the whole Hawk Tua thing for as long as possible. It was really funny. So I was at a fantasy football draft with some people who were quite a bit older, the whole boomer generation. And this was a solid couple weeks, maybe even a full month after the whole Hawk Tua thing blew up. And they had their phone. They had their phones out with their large font, just like, have you seen this? It's so funny. It's so funny. She says Hawk Tua like she's... Anyways, I forget that even in the digital age, sometimes news travels at the pace of snail mail. Anyways, but there's been rumors and conjectures like, oh, Slinging Sam Darnold, he's Pookie. Probably not. Apparently Pookie's going to be revealed on the show today. I don't care. As hell, if it makes Sam Darnold get his ish together, he can be Pookie. I don't care. All right. You saw what Taylor Swift did for Travis Kelce. Well, maybe not this year because he's kind of whatever. But, I mean, Super Bowl homeboy. Why not? And I don't know who these four guys on the bottom are. I assume the guy on the right is a boxer because you can see some boxing mitts. The guy on the left, I don't know. Singer? Is that Morrissey? That's dating myself. Actually, that's way before my time. Then you got Slinging Sam Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback. And then the guy next to him it's either Morgan Wallen or Kenny Pickett. I don't know, and I don't care. But either way. Speaking of tabloids. TMZ Sports. Ray Gunn praises NFL players' breakdance celebration during Vikings game. This is wild. Well, first off, I think it was a bit of an homage. The whole, if you can do it better, we'll give you $100,000. So maybe Beasley cashes in on that. I don't know if that affects the salary cap or not. But I am just so thankful that a Vikings player is on TMZ for good reasons, as opposed to the usual reasons why Vikings players make TMZ. That's all. But speaking of Slinging Sam Darnold, a.k.a. Pookie, so I think that if Darnold does want a chance to return to the Vikings, he's got to look good the rest of the way, and I think that he's got to at least take the Vikings to a Super Bowl. That's my guess right now, right? But you got J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. He's in the building, champing at the bit every single day. He's getting better, squeezing his mind grapes, and PA on the mic agrees. So, Purple Persuasion, PA talking about the future, blah, blah, blah. Quote, if Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl... if Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl as quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, he's not getting $100 million guaranteed here. He's not, because Kwesi in that group has worked so hard for 2.5 years to get salary cap flexibility, and in essence, jettison picks in certain parts of the draft to get Grenard, to get Van Ginkel, to get Cashman. So, yeah, it may not be in the cards to bring Darnold back, even if Darnold looks really damn good the rest of the way, because you already spent the draft capital to get McCarthy, and the greatest competitive advantage right now in salary cap is having your starting quarterback on his rookie deal, and the Vikings getting out of cap purgatory this year, taking those void year dead cap hits on the chin. So it doesn't really jive. A Super Bowl magic carpet ride aside, which will pay him. I don't care at that point. I don't see it happening. All right, so that's where currently at with stuff and things. Also stuff and things. Aaron Jones left the Jaguars game with a chest injury. Came back later on, and it looks serious. Plus, he was carted off, but that was more logistics because the X-ray machines. Oh, it's way over there. Yeah. But Ben Gessling, Strib, go. Kevin O'Connell said Aaron Jones had some soreness after his rib injury on Sunday. That might limit him in practice a bit this week, but he was confident Jones should be ready for Tennessee. Also mentioned that Jones is in the building on Monday because he had to do the satellite link up for the Kay Adams show. Yeah, but he said that he was looking good, in good spirits. So we said at the time, it kind of looked like he just got the wind knocked out of him. I'm sure there's more than that. I'm sure that there's some sort of minor contusion, but Jones should be good to go. But also, give Cam Akers more work, man. Like split up this workload, baby. That's right. Speaking of workload, Justin Jefferson is not getting the workload that he wants, mainly because defenses are just going out to stop him and stopping the big play. Guessing again, Per ESPN Next Gen Stats, the Jaguars played split safety coverage on 92.9% of their snaps against the Vikings. So cover two deep safeties. And remember, beginning of the season when the passing games and offenses were lacking explosive plays because a lot of teams were just sitting with two safeties on the back end, and people were like, "Oh, abolish the cover two." So stupid. But against the Vikings, the highest rate by any team since at least 2018. It's a popular approach against Justin Jefferson, but the Jaguars took it to an extreme. So basically what happens is if you have two deep safeties back there, you're splitting up the back end, and you can read and react to anything that happens with that quarterback, right? And generally, you're not going to get the big play, but guess what? With an extra defender, not in the box, not in the hook zones, not underneath, you're going to have some... You're going to have a lot of space to make some hay underneath. So that's what Slinging Sam Darnold needs to do. He needs to be happy hitting Hockenson, hitting Oliver, hitting Addison underneath. And if teams just want to sit in that cover two shell, I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's what we talk about in our preview, in our game previews. Like, make anyone else beat you. And I guess it's fine. But at a certain point, they're just going to get sick of being Hockenson to death, and then they'll cover Jefferson one-on-one, and then it's over. All right? So the reason why Darnold had those interceptions because they're just sitting on it. They're just waiting. It's like in checkers when you never move your back row. It's like, what are you going to do? All right? So Darnold, yeah, got to get things together. Jefferson will still get his. Things will be fine. Also, Jefferson didn't have a terrible game numbers-wise, despite the Jaguars selling out to stop him. Speaking of stopping him, Byron Murphy Jr., who Murph might be the most high-variance corner that we've seen on the Vikings in a while, right? And high variance, I mean he can be very, very bad, but also he can be very, very good. Highest grade Viking in Week 10 against the Jaguars, 89.1 PFF grade. Also, he's tied for the league lead in terms of cornerback interceptions with 4. So, and also, a lot of his interceptions have come in high leverage spots. So, big game Murph, the other one. I mean, he's looking good. So, but also there's times where it's just like he's cooked. He's just toast, man. But maybe that's just the nature of playing cornerback in the NFL, especially playing in the slot a lot, where you're not going to be a shutdown corner. All the rules are against you, and there's some dogs on the offensive side. But if you can just make your presence known late in games when you got to have a play and you just do that, I mean, Murph can do that. And maybe that's our current situation. But, I mean, Murph, I don't know if he'll be back. All right, so Murphy, the knock against him with the Cardinals, where he spent his rookie deal after he came into the league as a second-round pick out of Washington, was health. He had a severe back injury, and he was a question mark, right? And the Vikings' 2-year contract reflected that. But will he be back? I don't know. The Vikings have the cap space. If Murph wants to be here, I think that they could probably work something out. That it's not going to break the bank, but I don't know. Guess we'll see. And the rest of the video is just pooping on the Bears. So I love that the chickens are coming home to roost, right? And all offseason, we heard about Caleb Williams, the best spot for him. And like I said, as a quasi-USC fan, I feel bad for Caleb Williams because the Bears and Chicago is a place where quarterbacks go to die. It just, who's the last quarterback that they've developed? Huh? No. And Williams, I know that they were hyping up. Oh, he's got the offensive line. He was sacked 9 times. Oh, he's got the weapons. Well, Rome isn't quite ready. DJ Moore kind of comes and goes, and Keenan Allen is completely checked out, right? So it's rough, man. But him having the gall, just be like, hey, you're not going to be punting here much. To fellow rookie Torrey Taylor, the Michael Jordan of punters coming out of Iowa, who I wanted a lot. And then now Torrey Taylor's got more punt yards than Caleb Williams has total yards, which is kind of hard to do because, I mean, if punters get 4 punts a game, which would be ideal, like what, they're maybe getting 180 yards, 190, somewhere in there. It's rough, man. But it's definitely the Bears. It's definitely the Bears. 1 hour. Interstellar is a great movie, by the way. 1 hour here, 7 years on Earth. So if we've been here 1 hour, that means the Bears have hired the wrong head coach 3 more times back home. Because Eberflus is done, right? The IKEA toilet is not long for this job. They should have fired him last offseason and gotten an offensive mind to work with Caleb Williams. Honestly, I know that Ben Johnson is going to be selective with his jobs, and rightfully so, because you've seen like bad ownership, a bad GM, bad situation, no draft picks, bad salary cap. It can torpedo a coach. It can. And the Bears, I think that the Hallis McCaskey family is fine, but I don't think that they're conducive to building a winning team. I think that there's just too much stinginess with the cash, because this is pointed out in a book I listened to recently, where the Bears are unique in that their family business interest is the team, right? So they got to make every dime work like a dollar. Like, it is as close to a mom and pop operation as a $1 billion entity can be. Whereas every other owner has money from somewhere else, and the football team is basically a vanity project, a pet project, right? So that's why the mentality with the Bears and everyone else is different, right? So I don't know. Like, I think that from the top down, that just means that this is not going to be a place that a quarterback is ever going to develop unless you just hit a magic bullet. Like, even back in 2017, if the Bears take Mahomes instead of Mitchell Trubisky-Ponder at number 2, does Mahomes become Mahomes, or does he become a Winnipeg Blue Bomber backup quarterback Patrick Mahomes, son of former Twins reliever Pat Mahomes? Like, is that what happens? I mean, it's possible, right? But the Bears have the chance to do the funniest thing. Harrison Graham, what would be the most Bears hire of all time as the next head coach? I'll tell you, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy would be hilarious. It'd be absolutely stunning. Leslie Frazier makes sense for me. Frazier was on the 85 Bears. I think he tore up his knee in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 20 against the Patriots. Ron Rivera was like a heart and soul special teams linebacker, backup to Wilbur and Singletary and those guys. I think that I think the game has passed him by a little bit. And even his time with the Commies, like, he's just a little bit out of touch. But that's why he would be perfect for the Bears, because he's a name from back in the day. Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if they hired Ditka again. How old is Ditka? Like 90? Why not? Why the hell not? But yeah, like I said, is it Schadenfreude to take pleasure in the failure of others, especially when they were hyped up so much? Remember Nick Wright said that the Bears going to go to the Super Bowl this year? Not saying, I'm just saying. Yeah. Lastly, so from the Nolan Batman trilogy, of course, you had the Batmobile, the Tumbler, which is really, really cool, man. But it's for sale right now. Warner Bros. Is selling 10 fully functional but not street legal Dark Knight Batmobiles for $3 million each. Now, why did they need 10? Is that just is that just like the pork that gets added to the budget of all these movies? Could you have done 5? I don't know. Like, I know that there was a couple in The Dark Knight Rises, but couldn't that have been CGI, right? But here's what I love about Batman. Now, all the other superheroes are fine. And, my kid's getting into, like, Marvel now, DC and whatnot. But I always love Batman because he doesn't have superpowers. He isn't an alien. He isn't a mutant. He wasn't bitten by some sort of animal. He's just rich. And he trains martial arts. And it's just like, if this channel actually took off and I keep up my training, like, maybe I could be Batman. Why not? Keep hope alive. That's all. Anyways, that's it. Vikings news done for this wonderful Tuesday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.